Okay, now we're recording. So if you guys have questions, start asking away. I'm going to give you 1 minute or a couple minutes to, okay. Hi, you don't, yeah, there you go. Thank you. So I'm going to give you guys a minute to type questions. And if you don't, I'm going to start rambling. And if you want me to stop, you have to say something because I'm going to get all into it. So, let's see. Okay, liquidity. How can we use this? So using liquidity with structure, like I'll go to the 4 hour. This is a pretty decent example of that actually. So you can see on the daily, we'll do like a top down, I guess. So you guys can see is on the weekly, it's a little ugly, but if you're going from the highest absolute, for me at least, I'm not going to look at the monthly. I don't need to look at the monthly. High, low that produced this high, broke below. Low, retracement. Here's the high that produced this low. Here's the high that produced this low. Okay. So you guys can see that. So even though it's been on a huge run for like a year, we are higher time frame, weekly bearish. Okay. Look what we traded into. So we traded into the last, like the very last up move before the down move that created the lower low. Now, for me, it's a bit tricky because technically it didn't close below the wick. The bodies didn't close below the wick. But with a push like this, and it did trade below it, that tells me that we should still have bearish intent. Now we'll go to the daily. Now the daily time frame is a little weird because we had, and I've talked about this, we had this huge wedge that actually held for quite some time. And so if you look at the structure, I'm going to ignore all this because honestly, this doesn't matter. What have we been doing in recent price? We've been, I'll change the color. High, low, low that produced this high. Here's a low that produced this high. We trade above it here, but there's like no pullback whatsoever within this leg. So this is low, high. So now the problem or the deal with this is this didn't technically trade above, okay? But here are a couple scenarios that we're seeing. So this is, again, the low that produced this high. Now you could argue that this low produced this high because it barely traded above it, okay? So this would be your last structural point. Now, what happened? What happened with this structural point? This was broken, right? We broke through it. So you can see we trade below. So we trade below. Now give me a second. I need to mute somebody. So we trade below, right? So this is the high that produced this low. So now this is a bearish leg to the downside. Okay. This is bearish leg to the downside. So we could pull all the way back up into here and still go short as long as we don't trade back above this high. Because if we trade back above the high, then we're bullish again, right? So higher time frame, meaning the daily, we are bearish right now. Let's go to the 4 hour. On the 4 hour, we had easy structure. Could say I'll just start up here. Get rid of this. High, low. Here's the high that produced this low. Here's the high that produced this low. And I'll drag this over here. And then we broke above the most recent, right, lower high. So now we are bullish again, right? BOS. This is all one leg to the upside on the 4 hour. We pull back. And for anybody who's been actively watching all my videos, you know that I was waiting for this level. I anticipated price reacting off of this, because this is the high that produced this low. Now this is a break of structure on the higher time frame. Yes, right? This is totally 100%. But this is a break of structure, and on its own, it's completely valid. So now this 4 hour structure is bullish, and I'm remembering or keeping in mind that we need to pull back up into the origin of this move, or at least get a deeper retracement. 78% works really well. We need to get a retracement within this higher time frame leg to push down. Okay, so I see this BOS. I know that we should come test price up here on the higher time frames to push lower. So I'm anticipating price trading down, not breaking below this low, because we're bullish with this break above. So you don't expect price to trade below. It trades into here. This was literally the origin. This is the last sell to buy before this move up. They created the break of structure here. So this is the last sell to buy. We trade all the way down into it. Now here's our structure coming into that level. And if you guys have been watching, we called this push down because here is our structure on the 30-minute. This was on the 30-minute is really clear. That's why I said that. We broke below here, lower high, lower low, lower high, and you expect a lower low. You can see we trade into here, and where do we break structure? Break a structure here. And you guys can see price was reluctant to break that level because it was a structural point in the market. Oops. This is a structural point in the market. So it tests it a couple times and then goes, right? And you can see we've just been following bullish structure. So this you could technically classify as one leg because you broke this level here and you haven't had a pullback since. So this is like one leg. So the structure now would look like boom, BOS, and then you could pull back really anywhere within this. This is a bullish range. You can pull back anywhere, but I would like to see this get respected because so the deal is clearly, so it's a little uptrend, right? Boom, 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 boom. This is the low that produced this high. So now what I would see, or what I want to see, is a pullback within this leg. So this is a leg. You can see 78% lines up down here, 61's here. But within this entire push up, where are my POIs? Well, there's imbalance here. This is a demand zone. This could be a good level to look for continuations to the upside. So now, again, the structure is a little weird because I don't know. It's like if it had done this, it would have been more obvious. Like this, and then anything would have been a pullback, right? But from this perspective, like you get a lot of chop. So now from a technical perspective, we didn't break it until like here with this. So now this is all one leg, even though it has a bunch of smaller time frame legs within it, these little retracements. But at the same time, the structure here looks like the structure here. I don't know. It's just hard to explain what I'm trying to say, but it's just odd price action. But what I'm getting at is this is the confirmation BOS, like the very technical break of structure. And from the technical break of structure, where's the low, right, that had created this high? It would be the one down all the way down here, because this is the swing low, and then we don't trade above until here. But this has been respecting, so I don't want to see price trading below this. If we do, I'd be a bit weary that we are just going to end up shorting off. But I think it's going to hold. And then where can we take this? So this is my POI right here. Where can we take it? I said the 78% worked really well. Now this huge green rectangle is on the weekly. So we've traded into a higher time frame POI. We broke this structure here. Now we're getting what looks like a pullback, right? And what does the 78% line up with? And this is something that for some reason happens on like every time frame, especially my lower time frame plays for everybody in the supply and demand course. So for everybody in the supply and demand course, on the lower time frames, it happens like my areas of confluence line up with the 78% fib almost every time. And now this isn't really any different because you can see, I said this is, all this up here is the origin of this push down. What do we have in the origin? Pretty much all of this is efficient. There's a little bit of inefficiency in here, but you can see massive inefficiency, 78% fib level, and a doji candle. So like, honestly, if you wanted to, and I'm pretty confident, I'm not really ever confident in anything, but you could trade literally like that. Like, look for a lower time frame break of structure, but you could honestly set a limit there and it would probably work. So there's your free trade idea. It's, again, I always wait for confirmations, but to be honest, it just looks too clean, too obvious, and it would be a really high RR. And with the way I trade, like when I have high RR, I don't really care if I lose. It just doesn't bother me. It's hard to get like that, but you can't care if you lose, because if you care if you lose, you're going to lose a lot, I promise. Yeah, there's a ton of imbalance above. You guys can see the structure. This isn't hard to follow, right? It's not hard at all. Low that produced the high, break below. And then what happens? Within this leg down, we get a break of structure that's going to offer us a pullback up into here to then probably short off some more. Because again, remember guys, we did trade into a weekly level right over here. And maybe, if you want to be more meticulous, maybe we even traded into that. I have no idea. I don't know. I haven't looked. We'll see. Yeah, so we traded into that once, twice. Now let's see, just for the hell of it, let's see what this lines up with. What does this line up with? Does it line up with anything? Lines up. Oh, look at that. What did we do? High, perfectly equal highs. 1, 4, 2, 4, 6, 5, 4, 2, 4, 6, 8. So this is lower. So this didn't take this out. So this is a little pool liquidity. and then we ran it out with this tiny candle. Just took those two highs, and then look at what happened. It kind of melted for a little bit, right? Very strong push down. But you can see again, we're just following the structure. So within here, all of this price action is within a higher time frame block. Low, that produced the high. Low, that produced the high. Break below. Now within this leg, here's structure. We trade above. We come back into the origin of this leg. Like, it's all relative, guys. It doesn't really matter like how you look at it. You can look at it like this. Boom, boom, boom. Let's say your origin of this leg is here. What you'll see most of the time, BOS and go. And when I say it doesn't matter, so this perspective, like this here, breaking down into the origin and then continuing long in an uptrend. This is an uptrend. This perspective isn't any different than this perspective, because you're bullish in either case. Once you break this, you're bullish. So what do you expect? You expect to pull back within this leg. This is one leg. I guess I'll just probably confuse people. This is one leg, right? You're bullish since you had a BOS here. So you pull back into the origin to go long. This is no different than having an already bullish market. I need to redraw that. An already bullish market. And then pulling back into this leg to continue long. It's the same thing. So we break this, we're bullish. We expect a retracement to the origin to go long. What do we get? We get a BOS here, right here. And now this structure has been holding, and we anticipate price on going long. So that's kind of what I'm looking at on GBP USD. And that's a really comprehensive breakdown. So what you could do as well is you could take, I'd look for a confirmation, but you could take a trade within here up into here. Just an idea. Look for confirmations, play with the structure, understand it. But yeah, that's completely valid in my opinion. So if you guys have questions, drop them in the chat. I'm going to go get more water. So that's equal highs, buy side. Yeah, so the equal highs that I just pointed out, that's buy side liquidity. I mean, I don't call it buy side. I just call it equal highs. And I know that if they're swept, then, you know, we should expect to push down. But yeah, that's buy side liquidity. So I'm going to time you guys 30 seconds or a minute to type questions. And when I come back, I'll start answering them. So I will be back in 1 minute. Type all the questions you have, like starting right now, so you guys can get them in. Okay. So nobody had any questions. Yeah, I can look at gold. Guys, if you have questions, like type them up. I tutor people, and this is literally how I tutor them. So I promise you it works. Like, type your questions up. If you don't have any, then that's fine, but don't be afraid. Like, even if you feel stupid, there's who cares? Like, honestly, who cares? I've asked stupid questions before in my life, I'm sure. Come on. Okay. Can you guys still hear me? Yeah, I can talk about confirmation. Type in the chat if you can hear me, because this is like bugging out over here. Yeah, this is annoying. Okay. So let's see. There it goes. Here is, yes, okay, cool. So again, here's a structure. Now you can't really argue this as structure, to be honest, but I hope you guys understand what I'm saying with this, why it's weird, because this is the high that produced the low, and you didn't break it until like all the way over here. And this isn't really a retracement. I don't know. I just would prefer seeing the structure hold on this time frame, because it's obviously been working, and this is the low, here's the high, low. You don't trade above it until here. And with this, you could say this is structure, but this is really the leg, in my opinion. So I'd be looking for a trade down within here, just personally. So that's what I'm looking at on GU. Let's see the chat. Okay. So I'll go to gold after I address this. Someone asked about confirming the lower time frames. So literally all you do, or all you have to do, with confirming the lower time frames is here. I can just show you on EU. That's gold. So on EU, these were a couple. I talked about this on a recording last night with a couple people. No, this isn't EU. This is GU. I'm tripping. Sorry. So on GU, these were a couple trades. Now EU, here it is. I don't know. Oh, it's because I added GU twice. My bad. So here's a trade I took on EU the other day. And this is honestly a really good example of confirming with the lower time frames. So here you can see trending, obviously. EU broke structure as well. You can see this. This is really thorough, but I can go to the daily also. So on the daily, high, low that produced the high, low that produced the high. We haven't traded below and we haven't traded above. So we're trapped in this entire range for buys. So what happened? If we drop down to say the 4 hour, you can see high, low, high, low, high, and think of it again, the highs that produce the lows. So this, until you break below this, you haven't had a lower low. Like, and I'll get into that in a minute, but here's the high that caused this low. Here's the high that caused this low. Here's the high that caused this low. Now what happens? We break above with a break of structure. And where's the origin? This is all, again, this is one leg. There has not been a pullback here at all. Here's one leg to the upside, right? And this is the origin of the move. You can see sell, 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 and then just start buying up. So I want price to ultimately trickle back down into here and then go long. So going to the trade I took, or I guess I'll go on to like the 30-minute to talk about the structure. So you can see we had a BOS here because, oops, high, low, high, low, high, low, break above, high, low, high, low, high, low, high, low. And like this is the simplification part that I was going to mention a couple of minutes ago. Here's the low that produced this high. Until you trade below this or above this, this is a bullish range to be buying. Okay. So now this wicked through it, but it didn't close below it. And then we made a higher high. So I'm simplifying all this price action within here. So like from the low to this high, we had a bunch of this crap, right? But I don't care about this crap until we trade and close above either of these levels, because this is, again, higher high, higher low, higher high, right? So we have a higher low to a higher high. Now within this, I want to be looking for buys, and I don't adjust or change my swing points until we trade above this and close above it, or below it and close below it. So when I say adjust my swing points, is we get a push above. Now this here is a break of structure. People don't think of breaks of structure like this. They tend to only think about breaks of structure like in the case of a reversal, where this is the BOS right here to pull back and short. It doesn't have to be like that. When you're in an uptrend, a BOS can look like this: higher high, higher low, higher high. And then when you push above, this is a break of this structure, and you get a confirmed higher high. So once you get the confirmed higher high, what I just mentioned, adjusting your structure, it's not really adjusting as much as it's just adding. So before this high is produced, this is what I would have. Let's say, look over here. Don't look at all this. Focus to the right. I'm not going to go into bar replay mode. I just don't feel like it. So low, high. Now this is chopping.
Look, we do this now. Okay, you fry egg. Yeah, fry egg and
I see this. The moment I see this strong close above, I say, okay, here's my low. I'll change the color so you guys can see it. Here's my low. Here's my new high. And then now, this is my range for buying. And look at that. It ends up holding, right? It's not magic. I promise it's not. Just look at the focus on the definition or the technical meaning, however you want to think about it, or the dictionary defined whatever of structure. In an uptrend, higher highs and higher lows. I'll check questions right now. This wall works on anything. And I'm going to get into confirming it. Yes, like break of structure is when price closes above or below the previous high or the previous wick, high, or low. That's how I think of it. So, and again, guys, just focus on like the definition of structure when you're doing it. I promise it's what's easiest. In an uptrend, you are making higher highs and higher lows. And the most recent or pertinent structural point is this low, because it produced the new high. None of these matter, because once you trade below this, you're bearish. So these don't have any validity. Like there's no point in these existing, like honestly, because yeah, they're higher lows that are producing higher highs. But when you break the most recent low that produced the higher high, you're bearish. So now price is just going to trade below these because these all become areas of liquidity. And that's something I'll get into. This is these would be like within a higher time frame leg like this. And your origin would be somewhere down here. And once you turn bearish, like in this case, you're bullish and then you turn bearish, these points are liquidity areas, right? That just take you into your higher time frame origin of the move. But I'll get into that in a minute. So, okay, where was I? So structural perspective, right? Low, and then the highest high you make is up here. So, and like I said earlier, this honestly looks like a 78% retracement. 78 works really, really well. Yeah, so based off the structure, low, high, pull back into 78, right into the negative 27.2. Crazy, right? Also pretty much right into the negative 61.8. So low, high. Here's the low that produced this high. And then what ends up holding? This low trades into here and produces this high. This low produces this high, right? So we're just simplifying the structure, guys. That's what it's all about. Now, with this, I'll talk about this now. So here's the low that produced this high. Here's a retracement. Here's the low that produced this high, right? And this is the origin of this move. This is the last selling volume before we bought up that created the higher high. So here's the origin. Now, what happens? I was pissed off because I actually missed this trade. And it was, I mean, it happened while I was asleep, so I can't be too mad, but still annoying. So what do I see? I see this low. So low, high, low, high. Within this leg, what did I say happens? Higher high, higher low. You could say this was a higher high and a higher low. Higher high, higher low. Higher high, higher low. Higher high. We break below right here. Okay. We trade below this. So we've broken structure. So within this leg, now that we've broken below, right, this, what turns into areas of liquidity? All the intermediary points that were taking you higher, like the structural points, low that produce the high, low that produce the high. You break the most recent high, low, you break the most recent low that produced the most recent higher high, and you become bearish. That was so hard for me to say for some reason. So you break it. This is liquidity, 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 liquidity. And you can see price attacks these points. That's why it's so volatile when it moves towards them. Right here, it didn't break it, but then when it does, shoots through. Here, shoots through. Here, shoots through. Here, goes through, right? And then where does the move end up holding? The move only ends up holding once you get back into the origin, the big sell to buy, to push you up. That's when that, and when I say the move holds, this push up happens, okay, when you reach the origin. And how would I have confirmed this? So there are a couple ways from, and actually I'll talk about the trade I took real quick. So yes, I actually called this out. Yes, I sent it to the members in the S&D course. I can send screenshots of my entry too. So break below, right? This is the leg down. Now, what do I notice? Within this leg, we had, here's within this leg, okay? Here's the last low that produced the high. Break below, test, and then it goes down. So we have a, let me change the colors. Lower low, lower high. We break below here, lower low, lower high. Break below here. So this is the high that produced the lower low. Here's the lower low. This high produced it, right? Here. Retracement. What produced? Now this is just one new low all the way down here. What produced it? This high. Okay. So now looking, why did I just place a limit here? Because this within this bearish leg, there's bearish structure, and that bearish structure within the bearish leg ends up holding. That's like the easiest play. It's like if you do this and you have a bullish leg and you have like intermediate structure here, you just pull back and keep going. And then this just becomes one really big leg. But anyway, so that was a trade I took. And now I took it into the origin of the move. So again, we broke this structure, and then I just followed the bearish structure that's forming here. And I took it down into 1.8 flat, or 1.18 flat, because it's a psychological level. It's the origin of the move, you know, all that good stuff. So I wanted price to go long from here, which it did. And I'll show you why. So here, this is, so let me mark up the structure. This is so these blue dots, okay? That's like the relevant structure, I guess, is how to say it. So lower low, lower high, lower low. When do we break it? Down here. So this is your lower low. Where's the high that produced that low? Here. So now what happens? Price makes a lower low and then impulsively just shoots all the way back above this. So let me get rid of some of this stuff. Price impulsively trades above the high that caused the low. So this selling is not valid anymore for me, because now there's a difference between sweeping liquidity and breaks of structure, but that's a topic for another day. So once you invalidate the high that produced the low, the downtrend it's no longer a thing. It's no longer valid. So now let's look at what happens. So we break this high that produced the low. So what does that tell me? Well, that tells me that at the least, this is liquidity. Now, why would this also be liquidity, this swing high? Well, this is liquidity as well, because we're in a higher time frame uptrend and we trade into the origin of the move. So now I would expect a higher high. So let's see, knowing that this is liquidity, I'm going to put a line here so we can see how impulsively price breaks through it, because price impulsively breaks through areas of liquidity. So now this is confirming the lower time frame entry thing. So I could have put a limit here, like on my trading account, I could have placed a limit at the open of this big box and targeted the high. And I would have made 2% on my account, which is great, right? But you could have gotten an absurd entry on this, which I'm about to show you guys. And by the way, look, here's the high. Price impulsively trades through it because it's liquidity. It just straight up demolishes it, right? Same here. Liquidity, price just straight line, right through it. So you could have done this, or you could have recognized what's our lower time frame structure. Well, higher low, higher high, breakdown, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, trade above it. So now we should be looking for buys. This is like the swing high. So we trade above. So now this is a bullish. I do not know what just happened there. That is weird. Okay. So we create a higher high. So now this is a bullish range to buy. What happens? Oops. What happens? Where's the origin? Origin of this bullish leg, last sell to buy right here. Could have had a trade like this. For me, this happened at 2:30 in the morning. Obviously, I'm not awake. Entry, stop. What did I say? Higher time frame, we expect a higher high. So target the high. 1 to 10.5. But And honestly, this is how I would have taken the trade. What do you notice about this? Equal lows.
I'm sorry. I didn't realize what you were trying to tell me. And
This
if one of the complaints, you got my back in. Thanks, but
This is right. Lows. Run them out. Where did we run out the lows? Right there, right? So this is a candle that we use. Run the lows, break a structure. So this is also kind of a demand level. Chop, chop. It's, for me, demand and supply. Consolidate, manipulate, BOS, come back, test. So in this demand, consolidate, manipulate the lows, break a structure, minor break of structure, major break of structure, even bigger break of structure, consolidate, manipulate, test, and go. Your entry literally could have been right there. It would have been a 1 to 55. That's a completely legitimate trade. It followed every rule. Here's our higher time frame origin of the move. You expect a pullback into here. I had all this shit up before this even happened. All of this was up before this even happened. I was looking at this level. It just happened at freaking 2:30 in the morning for me. It is what it is. But you can see origin, come down, break a structure here. Well, first of all, break a structure here, break a structure here, and break a structure here. So you have like 3 different breaks of structure within an origin of a higher time frame leg. Yeah, it's going to go long. And it was a 1 to 55. If you'd risked 1%, you would have made 55% on your account with this single trade right here. And it met literally every rule. Now you can see, I'll mark off the structure. Sorry about that. So you guys can see higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. This is a structure we're following. And what does price not do? It doesn't break the last low that produced this high. Comes down. Now we get a BOS above this level here. And now this is, for next week, my POI on EU. Just following structure, guys. It's not that hard. And looking at the technical definition of it. Lows in an uptrend, it's the low that produced the higher high. In a downtrend, it's the lower high that produced the lower low, right? So with this, I'm literally, how I trade is literally following structure and then looking for breaks of structure within origins of moves. Here's a higher time frame leg, and this is the confirming entries on lower time frame. Come down, BOS here, BOS here, BOS here. I look for the origin of this move on the lower time frame, because when we break above this, this is our bullish leg. The origin's down here, so I want to buy at the origin. And then why did I take it up to here? Because we're in a higher time frame uptrend, so I expect a higher high relative to this. And then this structure just ended up holding the whole time, right? So this worked out beautifully. And now I'm just looking to keep buying it up. There's no reason not to. I'll check questions. You got me based on trading views. One sec. What do you do if the close of a candle is exactly the same price as a previous higher low? That's not a BOS. Yeah, that's not a break of structure. for me. Let's see what this is. Oh, that's cool. Thank you for sharing that, whoever did that. I didn't even know that there was like a thing for this. Thank you, Sebastian. Guys, go look at what Sebastian sent. I don't know what that is. Okay, go look at what he just sent. That was actually really helpful. That I didn't even know there was a thing to show you all the capabilities. But yeah, it's breaks a structure within origins of moves. That's how you can confirm lower time frame. And yeah, you want to see it close above or below the wicks, and the wicks are just the highs and lows. So the structure, the question, Sebastian, the two of them that you asked, it's kind of the same. You do want to see closes above the highs or lows of the wicks and not just at the same price. That's not a BOS. So that's a good question. Confirming entries on the lower time frames. The EA trades on the smaller time frames. So since it trades, it doesn't really matter. It's going to trade how the EA Wyckoff Wizard is going to trade exactly how I'm showing you here, but I'm not going to talk about that too much because I'm just focusing on manual trading right now. Yeah, so I'll look at gold real quick and then I'm going to leave one more lesson for you guys and then that'll be it. So gold real quick. Can see this. We go to the daily. So weekly, we're in a huge uptrend. Like the weekly structure would look like this. Here's the low that crossed this higher high. Now on the daily, what have we kind of been doing? It's not perfect by any means, but change the color. This ended up holding. This is all, honestly, this is all just kind of one leg. There's not really a pullback within here. One leg to the upside like that. Boom, perfect. So until we trade below this, we are bullish on the daily as well. Now on the 4 hour though, it's pretty obvious that we're trending down. Now, this did not technically create a lower low, but look at all the liquidity here. Look at this. Low, 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 low. Like these are, and the lows here. Just a huge area of liquidity. It's most likely going to just go down. That's why I labeled this swing point. Now, gold is a bit odd because yes, this is supply, but this isn't technically the structural point. Now I'm going to invert it because it's easier for me to see like this. So this isn't technically the structural point that created this. We'll call it, for the sake of argument, call it a lower low. So if you were to invert it, I'll go back so it's not confusing. This isn't a lower low technically, but it is. We had so many equal lows and this high produced this. So I'm going to say it's a lower low. So this is a range for selling this whole thing. Now, where are the POIs, right? So POI for me, the origin of this whole move down is like up here with this. This is really the last buy before we sold off. So this is a good POI. Now, the only concern with this is, yes, this is an area of supply, but look at what else it is. It's just a bunch of equal highs. So what price could do, or what we could be seeing right now, is this. I think that's pretty reasonable. And of course, what does this look like it lines up with? 78.6 lines up with the open pretty much of this move here. So that could be a really good POI. I think this is just going to run it and then go. So yeah, that's what I'm looking at on gold. It could drop, but even so, like, look at what we're doing. I actually caught a buy. We sent it out as a signal to our VIP members. And this is also a little structure. You can see this. Just supporting bullish structure. It's been going up. I bought it in here. And now my next lesson, I'm actually not going to be able to talk about today, sadly. I'm going to talk about the promo and then kind of wrap this up. But I bought it in here because this is, again, technical perspective. Don't overcomplicate it. And even here, like, the deal with this is there wasn't a BOS. Like, what I mean by what I'm about to say is if we're doing this and we traded down into here and then broke like this and then created this high, your BOS would be here. But there was like nothing in this leg that we actually broke structure on. But still, you can see we're clearly forming higher highs and higher lows. And this actually traded above, so this is invalid, and we could just go long. But anyway, I just did that again. Okay, so you can see higher highs and higher lows, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. So until we trade above this or below this, I'm looking for buys. Now what happens as soon as I see the break and close above here, and I'll do it with the highlighter tool so it's clean. You can see, boom, low creates a high, low creates a high. Now we make a high here, so I'm like, okay, cool, mark it off. Where's the low? Right there. So I'm looking for buys within here. Now what happens? Where's the origin of this move up? Where did this move start? Started right here. This is a demand candle, doji demand. Here's also the last sell to buy candle right here. But for me, I refined it into a doji on the smaller time frames, or you could have just looked at the open of the last down move, traded above. Now what you also had is you trade into here. This is lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low. You break this higher high, right? Where do you close above it? You close above it here. So if you're marking it up, I'll mark it up quickly. I'm trying to do this fast because I do need to get going in a couple minutes. So low, high, low, or low, high that produced the low. On the lower time frames, these wicks are bodies, so this high produced this low. Where do you close above? You close above here. So now this is this leg up is your bullish range. We traded into the origin of this move, broke structure, like this counter trend, broke above. So now this is a leg to the upside. You want to be looking for buys within this leg here. And again, what does this look like? To me, it looks like a 78% retracement to mitigate and go long, took it right to the negative 61.8. So this low produced this high. Now we had this low and we have a new high. So I'm going to be looking, then this is the origin. This is the last sell to buy before we really got that move up. So I'm going to be looking for buys in here up into this level. So that's what I'm looking at on gold. I hope that's a complete breakdown. That's a complete structural perspective too, by the way. So that's really everything with how I trade. I talked about confirming with lower time frames, and I showed you guys the EU trade. I talked about structure, liquidity and structure. Really, you just want to see liquidity be taken out in the direction of trend. So this is an uptrend, and we have equal highs. I think Pacho Macho asked this question, but you have this, right? Equal highs. You're trending up here. And then, so you would expect the equal highs to get taken out with a trend. That's how I use it personally. There's really nothing else to it. So I hope that answered all your guys' questions. I might hold a live tomorrow to talk about the other concept that I wanted to cover. But if I don't, I'll talk about it on the next live session, whenever that is. And I'm going to stop the recording now because that's everything I wanted to discuss in terms of like the strategy and structure and stuff.